Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Story about P. Wicht. I live with my father in a place with hundreds of houses, a majority of them more or less abandoned. I have lived here since I was a kid, so about 15 years. When I was a kid, I'd guess around 5 years old, there was a man living in the house right across my father's house. His first name starts with P, so let's call him that. Anyway, P was in his late 70s. He was a retired war veteran, and he was very good with herbs and botanics and other odd things. He was also a junk collector, not very extreme. But he did have a lot of weird stuff, like dozens of ceramic trolls outside his front door and stuff like that. You know, weird stuff. He also had the biggest apples in his apple tree. Rumors said P used his feces as fertilizer, but that's probably not true. However, P barely spoke to anyone. People didn't really know much about him either, but my father was an exception. Since he is good with people and whatnot, he managed to make small talk with P every once in a while. He always told me to stay away from him, though. Years passed, and P died when I was around 11 years old. My father told me about it the same day. A couple of days later, P's mother and sister came here to clean out the house and pick up what's theirs. P's mother was really old, as you may already have realized. This made it hard for them to clean it out, and they didn't feel like doing it. On top of that, they were naturally sad about P's death. This is when they offered my father to buy P's property for a small amount of money. They just wanted to get it over with. And so my father did buy P's property, including the stuff inside his house. He would then spend weeks cleaning. Man, all the weird things he found there. One of the things he found inside P's house was an electric scooter, the two-wheeled kind, kids sometimes have them, which he just carried and put in our storage room. After he cleaned the house, he spent time applying new wallpapers and placed a new floor to freshen up a little. He then gave me the house to use instead of a room. Yes, you read it right. I've had my own house since I was a kid. It is only 2 rooms, though, and right in front of my father's. The following weeks, mysterious things started happening around here. Things would seem out of place, and strange sounds could be heard at night. My father jokingly said it was P's ghost, and it made me rather uncomfortable at times. But I manned up and just didn't think about it that way. Some nights when I went out to take a piss in the bushes, I could feel as if P was watching me from somewhere. I don't know how to describe this feeling more than I just did. Months later, my father went on a month-long boat trip. I stayed at my mother's house during that time since I didn't want to come with him. A couple of weeks into his vacation, another neighbor called my father and told him our fire alarm went off. And my father told him where the extra set of keys were, and our neighbor went inside to find nothing out of the ordinary. When my father came home from his vacation, he went to turn the water back on, the electricity, etc. And then he opened the storage room. Inside was the electrical scooter, with a completely burned-out tire and a huge hole in the fat carpet on the floor. This was extremely weird, since the scooter can't possibly be started without the key in the ignition. My father is an educated electrician. He knows this kind of thing. The scooter hadn't even been test-driven since he removed it from P's house. This is when my father really thought something paranormal was going on about P. He told me, and I freaked a little, but it didn't stop me from sleeping in my new house, though. Various small, spooky things continued to happen, and both my father and I were convinced that P's ghost was messing with us. We looked through all of his old stuff again to see what kind of things we could find if we took a second look, and my father found a small sign with P. Wicht on it. Wicht was P's surname. My father decided to take the sign and attach it to the house, as a sign of respect of some sort, or just to honor the old man. He did, and immediately after that, the haunts seemed to stop. None of us got that feeling anymore. I didn't feel creeped on when taking a piss in the bushes outside my house. I just felt like I wanted to share this with you. /X/.
Be me. I just graduated boot camp and checked into infantry school. First night in the holding barracks. I have a 1 to 3 a.m. watch. Spooky.jpg. The other Marine has the front hatch, I have the back hatch. Just sitting on a chair with a small desk. Hear footsteps on the gravel every now and then, look outside and see nobody. This happens a few times. Halfway into my shift, I hear voices outside. Hey Firewatch, you got any smokes? Negative, no smokes here, I choke out. Silence. The air feels extremely cold. A few feet back from the doorway see Marine in ERDL camo, face obscured. I am armed with nothing but a red lens flashlight. Shine light in the doorway to get a better look. Figure is gone. Sense a lingering presence, a ghostly energy in the room. Extremely unsettled at this point. See movement from the corner of my eye. Pan my flashlight towards it. A shadowy silhouette stands a few feet away from the first pair of racks and footlockers. Freezing wind rustles through the room, though the windows are closed. Heart pounding, I fix my gaze on the figure. ERDL camo faded, tattered. Still no clear facial features. My voice trembles, who are you? The figure remains motionless, silent. Identify yourself. As I finish my sentence, the figure retreats, dissolving into the darkness. Saw some spoopy things during Nightland navigation as well.
I've been on both sides of this one. Never sleepwalked before in my life, but during basic training. Chair force here, I would apparently get up in the middle of the night and stand at attention at the foot of my bunk. The guys on fire watch said when they came around they'd shine the flashlight on me and I'd mumble something like right, yeah, and just go back to bed. Happened 4 or 5 times while I was there. When I was fire watch, I would usually stay awake while my wingman napped. Lots of guys didn't sleep well at basic, but aside from the sleepwalking I slept like a baby, so I didn't mind. One time I had just finished the head count, everyone present and accounted for, when I heard movement in the latrine. The latrine only has one door in or out, no windows. The front half is toilets and sinks, the back is open showers. Pitch black, so I sweep over the front section with my flashlight, nothing. The stalls are all open, but I move a little deeper in to check around the corners. Then I hear faint sobbing back in the shower area. So I say, hey, you okay in there? The sobbing stops. I peek around the corner, and nothing. Just to be sure I pass the flashlight's beam around the edges of the shower, but the only things I find is a standard issue brown towel balled up in one corner. It's soaking wet. Not too surprising, the shower doesn't drain well. There's no excuse for it to be in there, since we clean right before retreat each night, and I don't want to just leave it there because if an instructor finds it, we'll get lit up for sure. So I just grab the sopping wet towel and toss it in the trash. Worst case, the guy who lost it has like 3 other identical towels, and it's his own fault for leaving it. I did check the laundry mark. We used the last initial and the last 4 social numbers, but it wasn't one I recognized, so I never figured out whose it was.
Hey, mine is kinda short and not a lot happens in it. Anywho, be 9-year-old me. Mom has to rent, since the relationship with my dad didn't work out so well. On to the 3rd house that we are renting. There is a single room in this house that is always ice cold, even during summer. Mom will later find out that there was a murder in the house a while ago, and the woman's body was hidden under a mattress in that room until the smell gave it away, but she would learn this a bit later. Only considerable paranormal events or small things going bump in the middle of the night until a single night makes my mother decide to move out. I fall asleep as my mom is checking on my sister to see if she is sleeping okay. I feel like I am in the body of a mouse, and I am walking on all 4s like one too, and I am also as low to the ground as a mouse would be. I am just outside the room where my mother is checking on my sister, who is sleeping in my mother's bed. As I am walking past, something steps out of the cold room. I am not sure if it is my bad memory, or if it actually was dressed in this outfit, but the shoes were those large metal diving suit kind of footwear. The person in this outfit swings one of their feet and hits me as hard as they can. The pain is enough to wake me up. As this is happening, my mother turns to see a very defined shadow in that exact same place, but it quickly disappears. Despite her better judgment, she rushes across the house to my room to check on me. She reaches my room as I am waking up. I do not remember anything in between the dream and arriving at my nan and pop's house to sleep for the rest of the night, but according to my mom, I said we have to leave this house. The only other strange event after this was a few packing boxes being thrown across the room as we were moving out. In hindsight, it was not really that bad, but it is definitely better having a not-so-haunted house than one that is haunted at all.
I'll bite. Anyways, I have had a fair number of encounters with what I suspect to be an individual entity, incorporeal, very territorial, and which to the best of my knowledge believes to own me, in a way akin to how one owns valuable trinkets. I'm just going to detail one of the later encounters. It was about 11 o'clock at night, my family was asleep, I was playing around on my phone watching YouTube, normal stuff for me at the time. I'm getting real thirsty, so I turn my screen brightness to max, and tiptoe out of my room, down the hall, through the kitchen to the water cooler we have in our house. We are on a well, but the city sucked up so much water we have too many heavy metals in our water. I get my water and drink it there, decide that I don't feel like taking the glass back to my room and just leave it. Start walking back, I'm in the kitchen, which is separated by a bar from the living room. All of a sudden, and this bit is important, without me being blinded in the slightest, the living room and doorway room area with the tile is lit up, no shadows, no varying intensity, all a flat daylight bright light. Mind you, this was when it was pitch black outside, and inside, no lights turned on. Outside the window is pitch black, the hallway to my room is pitch black. Inside the door area are two massive elephant-looking legs, gray, but generally smooth and straight like a rod of milled steel. Near the top of the arch, so about 7 feet, are what I assume to be knees. As it is wrinkly. I just know that the creature is significantly taller, and should not be able to fit in that space. I also know that this was a form of intimidation, and a challenge to me. In an earlier encounter I calmed myself down by repeating that they couldn't come inside the house, guess I was wrong. I sprinted into my room, only avoiding hitting the walls cause it's my childhood home and I like to slink around at night. Shut my door, kinda slam it, lock it. Turn the lights on in my room the very second after I lock the door, ceiling light with fan, light is on but fan isn't. I get onto my bed and go fetal position on top of it, facing the door, too petrified to get any closer to the door. Stay up all night staring at the door. Only time I moved was after a few hours. I don't remember the exact time, but that was simply to get into my covers in case my parents woke up early. Stayed up until the sun came up. Only by then did I turn off my ceiling light and lay in bed. I don't think I got any sleep though, the day after was rough, an all-nighter filled with hormones and such. The drawing I made about 3 days ago just had a sudden fervor, and I knew I needed to visualize, so I drew it as best I could from memory. The actual event was probably 4 or 5 years ago. Anyways, don't comply with what strange voices tell you to do, I am certain it will not go well for you.
I have a few ghost stories from my childhood I will type out since I like the idea of this thread. They won't be scary or anything. Number 1. My stepdad lost his mom to a heart attack that happened as she sat in a certain chair when he was just 12 years old. For some unknown reason, he kept this chair for at least 25 years, and proudly told me one day that this is indeed the chair where his mom died. I was like 6 or 7. He was a really bizarre guy. I was very afraid of that chair ever since and had a dozen dreams where it got up like a person and smothered me with its chair legs. In the same house, my mom once saw a white shape coming through the corridor and into the room with the chair. When it sat on the chair, the white apparition exploded into a white cloud. Though a part of me is sure Mom just made this story up, since she knew by then I was horrified by that chair. The man only got rid of it after he had to move to a city apartment, and since the chair was this huge armchair, there wasn't a place to put it in. Pick-related is the style of chair, but not the same chair. Thing was almost a sofa. Number 2, this is such a bizarre tale, nobody ever believes it, which is really frustrating because there are at least 10 witnesses to it. When I was a kid, there was an old man in our commie block who had long, curly black hair and a greasy ponytail, a clean shave, tap dancing shoes black in color with white shoe belt thingies, tight pants, and a leather jacket he wore all the time, as well as a single white glove and a handmade wide brim hat, since such hats were not made in the Soviet Union and post-Soviet Union countries. If this description doesn't ring any bells, he was dressing up as a Eastern European bargain bin version of Michael Jackson, though he was around 50 when Michael was like 30 plus, and we kids were all 8 to 10. That guy lived completely alone, and he only walked around in this one costume. Despite knowing us all for years, he would walk up to us as we were playing at least once per week and ask, Do you like Michael Jackson's music? Do you like how he dances? I studied dancing from Michael Jackson. You want to dance like him? Despite everyone knowing what his intentions were and saying no, he continued going. Like in my apartment, I have all of Michael's records and his autograph in a frame. You want to come see? I can teach you to dance like he does. He was like a robot, since we were long taught by our parents to say no to his every question and say we don't like Michael Jackson at all. So he never lured any of us into his apartment. But goddamn, man, how bizarre is that? A commie block had a man dressed as Michael Jackson constantly pester small kids, begging them to go into his apartment. And the most protection our parents provided was making us promise we won't go. I mean, he could have grabbed us one day or something, right? Anyway, he died from a bad heart when we were like 15 and didn't interest him anymore.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.